And I want us to listen to what some members of parliament who are accompanying the deputy president had to say yesterday at an event in as far as the discussion that once upon a time the deputy president said that stop politicking in my name in the campaigns towards 2022. Let's listen in.
Bila nyinyi mlisikizana na rais, mkasema kazi ile ambayo inafanywa sasa ni kazi ya maendeleo. Hiyo ndio sisi tunafuata na tutaki maneno ya fitina. Tuko nyuma ya Rais Uhuru Kenyatta 100%. Na hatukuanza juzi na Rais Kenyatta. Tangu 2002 amekuwa rafiki wa jamii ya Kalenjin wa karibu. Hii kiti ya president hata mubadilishe majina mara ngapi. Mkitaka muite prime minister, muite senior chief, muite paramount chief, muite jina yoyote, hata mkitaka muite Raila. Mwisho itakuwa ni kiti ya William Samoei.
Ila ambao sisi tunasema ati the winner should not take everything, ati rais agawanya mamlaka na prime minister. Nani atagawanya mamlaka na governor? Nani atagawanya mamlaka na women rep? Nani atagawanya mamlaka na viongozi wengine wote?
Ile kitu Mungu amesema itakuwa, hata watu waitisha referendum ya kwanza, ya pili, mara 10, William Ruto atapitia katikati yao mchana.
Wale ambao wanataka kutuletea referendum, mimi nimesema sisi hatuogopi referendum. Walete, lakini iwe ni referendum ambayo itasaidia sisi kupea hawa vijana wetu ajira.
Watu ya mkoa wa zamani ya Magharibi tuko nyuma ya naibu wa rais wa nchi ya Kenya. Na tuko tayari kupiga kura zaidi kuliko hata kura ya hawa Kalenjin watu yako hapa. Tumejipanga tutashinda kura hawa Kalenjin hawa.
So we have all this conversation, and like I said, a few weeks ago, at the time that Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i was appointed to that position of chairing the Cabinet Committee on Implementation and Development, we saw the Deputy President releasing a statement through his office saying that stop campaigning in my name. Now, this is an event that he was attending. I mean, where are we? Are we back to where we were?
The president and his deputy are obviously reading from different scripts. Whereas the president wants to concentrate on the final stretch, the deputy is focusing on 2022. But if history would be a teacher, I would think, and I'm not his advisor, but I would think he's going about it the wrong way. Because it needs to reflect on the national mood as it is right now. You see, the genius of God is that he made us mortal. So people are talking about 2022. I thought my late brother would be there up to 2050. But there is the mortality of humanity. That when people go on a podium and vow and swear that ata mufanye nini, president atakuwa so and so, I think it's a bit foolish.
All right,
what we need to hear from these guys is that because William Ruto has done ABCD, then he deserves to be president. Not the kind of...
Should we hate now or later?
No, even if that was to be a conversation about 2022, because you can't tell politicians not to politic. I mean, it's our business. You can't tell a pastor not to preach. So politics will go on. But the script ought to be, because William Ruto has done ABCD that has helped this country in XYZ ways, then he deserves to be considered for the presidency. It cannot just be that because he comes from a region or because there's a debt. Which debt? When was that debt signed? I'm not part of that debt.
Before I can come in with my follow-up question on what you've just mentioned, we have Jamal from Mombasa. You're calling in, Jamal. Good morning. What's your comment or question to the panel?
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Yes, go ahead, Jamal.
I just wanted to say that it's been this government has been there for 6 years now. And all these members of parliament sitting there have been there for, I assume, for 6 years as well. And every morning and every day and every night we sit here and watch the television or read in the media. It's always them speaking about us, speaking to us, and speaking for us. So which one is it?
Right.
And we can try it for 6 years for them complaining just like us. This one sisi wananchi wenyewe tuna complain, wao wakicomplain sisi tutakwenda complainia nani?
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jamal. Jamal has a point there. We do this every day we sit here with different politicians in their different capacities and we have these same issues. Let me come back to just picking it up from where Honorable Kajwang left it. Dr. Chris, the thing is, here we've seen the DP saying that do not use my name when it comes to 2022 politics. Let us stay focused on the Big Four agenda. But he did not call out those same politicians in that event that we saw him at yesterday. He was seated and he paid attention. That's one. Number two, if you also compare his attitude back in Chatham House and the speech that he gave, his actions and his speech are two different things. What are we supposed to read from this? He says he's ready to work with Raila, but he goes to Chatham and gives a different speech.
Now, one thing you need to understand is DP is a politician. And right now, as we speak, to him, before the handshake, it was like one leg was already in State House. Because Jubilee, when they were going around, they were saying we want the 20 years. The 10 for Uhuru and 10 for Ruto. But within the journey, things are changing right now. So to him, he thinks this handshake is actually an obstacle for him to go to State House.
Right.
That's one thing we need to understand. And now, when you look at the arguments that the politicians there were speaking, you know, a member of parliament is a politician, and there's that freedom of expression. You can't say that you'll come and maybe gag somebody that don't say A, B, C, D. But the most important thing is this: the handshake as it came in, some of us who believe in it, has added a lot of value. Of course, when you bring in an issue, they always have merits and the demerits.
Okay.
You know, it destabilizes the course of action that maybe Jubilee had. Because in the first term of Jubilee, so to speak, the deputy president was very powerful. But you are seeing now Uhuru Kenyatta, a different person.
Powerful by perception or in action?
No, even in action. We've been on this forum last time when we were here with many members of parliament from the central Kenya, and they said no. At that time, when you want anything to be done, we had to show our loyalty to the deputy president.
Right.
But at that particular time, the president, I think he was interested in getting the support of the DP for the second term. But now in the second term, we are seeing a different Uhuru. And Uhuru wants to leave his legacy. And that's why he realized that for him to succeed, he must look for Raila Odinga. So in this case, I wish you give me a bit of more time.
Okay.
So in this case, some of us, we believe so much in the handshake when it comes to service delivery. We are seeing now the president is there where he is, and we are seeing issues of fight against corruption. At least we are seeing value added. And as I mentioned, in parliament right now, members of parliament, particularly from Jubilee side, they are no longer being used as rubber stamp. We are debating objectively. And this is what is supposed to be in the presidential system.
All right, let me take a different twist here, and it's the aspect that is still on page 10, where the president was Ruto to consider naming a female running mate for 2022. Senator Ledama, if my memory serves me right, you started a Maasai Education Discovery Center for Girls in Narok, so you seem to be passionate about girls' education. Do you think the Kenyan voters and Kenya in general is ready for a female vice president or president?
Before I comment on that, I've got to weigh in on this issue of the DP. And there's always a saying that says a doubtful friend is worse than a certain enemy. People in the Rift are so doubtful about the future of the DP, so I empathize with him. And the people who are out there talking about his current position are people who feel like, you know, we ride together, we die together. You know, if we're going to be bad boys, we become bad boys for life. Now, looking at the way things are going, and I want to be very critical, and I stand by what I say, is that I strongly believe that what the handshake has done in terms of the business of this country is fantastic. But what also the handshake has done in terms of a fiduciary responsibility is questionable. And sometimes I question it. Because Mheshimiwa Chris would say here that in the National Assembly they debate objectively. I would say it differently. In the Senate we don't. Because it's all carried out in interest. It is all about interest. Last week I was here talking about the energy and the petroleum bill. It all became interest. I sat down with the CS for about 45 minutes, but then again he renegated. So these issues of being doubtful, you know, really confuses. Now to your second point of whether Kenya is ready for... Did
you just say that at the Senate you're unable to objectively pursue...
What I said is that the Senate, in the Senate, and you know, I stand by my words, interest, special interest is what dictates what will happen. We passed legislations last week, which to me, I believe, being in the member of the committee that was tasked to meet with stakeholders, is not good for this country. And I hope that when that legislation is now passed again down to the lower house, You know, they can be able to, you know,
it's a point of order. It's okay, Dr. Chris.
When it's passed to the lower house, before it goes up to the president for session, maybe the president can look into it again and really critically and objectively think about it's on the energy and the petroleum. I mean, it was absolutely ludicrous. I sat down with the CS for 45 minutes. We agreed that all the amendments we brought in are amendments which are good. But when we went to the floor, the CS told me he's going to call the majority leader. He never. So are we being objective? Are we being honest in this country? We are not. Okay? So to end this discussion, yes, of course, I spoke to Keter. You know, we spoke for 45 minutes. He said he will be able to do this. Can I finish what I'm saying? What I'm saying is this. It is, let us be honest with ourselves. The day we start being honest is the day we'll start moving this country ahead.
All right.
To your second point, in terms of whether this country is ready for a female vice president, I am a firm believer that any woman is capable of leading this country. Even if it's a president or a vice president, you know, it's up to Kenyans to decide.
If any legislation from the Senate, just a minute. In case any legislation come from the Senate, which is not for the interest of the public, you can be assured, National Assembly, we are going to correct that. And we'll go to the mediation. So you don't have to worry.
It originated from the National Assembly.
For direction, the National Assembly, with the work they do, actually, it's supposed to be an upper house, not the Senate.
We're out of time.
You know, I usually don't like getting into arguments between National Assembly and Senate because it's as if we are just fighting for ourselves rather than for the people. That caller from Mombasa says that we are just talking to them. So let's leave these arguments about the two houses.
Okay.
It would have made news if the Deputy President would have said that he aspires that in 2022 we have a female president, not a female running mate. To me, that is not news. To me, that is pork barrel kind of politics, trying to offer a position to women in this country so that you can get support. The day we will know that we have made it as far as gender parity is concerned is a day when it will no longer be news when a woman has done something. We still find ourselves in a situation where we are celebrating someone for having been elected a member of parliament and she is a woman. That tells us we are still far off. Part of the conversation, if we are going to have a constitutional review, would also be to have a good discussion on ways of achieving that gender balance and parity that was enshrined in the current constitution. Because if you look at all bodies, be it the cabinet, it does not meet the threshold. Parliament does not meet the threshold. So the conversation, if the Deputy President was genuine, he ought to have addressed himself to the possibility of even supporting a woman one day and to the possibility of the government where he's number 2, giving effect to the provisions of the constitution on gender balance, which is not there even in the cabinet.